Okay, Shalom Aleichem, welcome everyone. As we are continuing in the time of Bava, Mesechus Sanhedrin Daf Lamed Aleph, Amud Aleph, about 12 lines from the bottom. In the Art Scroll English edition, it is on 34A-3. Last week we ended off with saying that it cannot be that there would be two psukim in the Torah that teach the same exact lesson. Every pasuk can teach us many lessons, but you're not going to have two parts of the Torah that teaches the same lesson. And if such a thing did happen in the Sanhedrin while they were taking a vote, and two people and two dayanim gave the same answer. Both said this guy is hayamita, or the guy is innocent because of one pasuk, and the other one uses different pasuk to teach the same exact teaching. We wouldn't count both of them as two votes. Rather, we would count them as one vote because someone is saying an incorrect lesson. Because it's impossible that the exact same lesson will be learned from two different sugim in the Torah. So now the Gemara wants to find, where do you have two rabbis teaching the exact same lesson from two different psukim, where if it was happening in Sanhedrin, this vote would not be counted. One of the votes would not be counted. So where do we have this? Where do you have that? One reason from two psukim. Amar Rav David. Rav David says, Kiditnan. We have a Mishnah. Mizbeach Mekadesh is Haroiloi. Basically, that if there is some psul, there's some sort of psul that happened in the base of Mikdash, you brought a carbon, and while you were bringing it up, it got disqualified, right? So you're not supposed to bring it up onto the Mizbeach. What happens if a person did bring it up on the Mizbeach? So we're learning from the pasuk, Rishu Aimer, Kol Haroy La'ishim Im Ala Lo Yerich, Nemar Ha'ola Al Mokedah. Yeshua says that if it already came up onto the fire of the on the fire on the Mizbeach, if it came onto the fire, once it goes up, you don't bring it down. Shnemar, because it says Ha'olah al Mokedah, that an offering was brought on the fire. And the Rashi explaining it is, you don't need to tell me this, that if it's a kosher animal, a kosher carbon, that you don't bring it down. Of course you don't bring it down. So it must be the pasuk is teaching us something else, that if you brought up a disqualified carbon, you don't bring it down also. Shnemar Ha'olah al Mokedah. Ma Olah Shehira Uyala Ishim. Just as an Olah is good to go up on the fire, Im alata lo tered. If you bring it up, you're not allowed to bring it back down. Kol shehu roy laishim. So anything which brings up to the fires, im lo yered. Anything that's roy for it, I mean it's supposed to go up, but it's just psul, and it's puzzle now. Still, you bring it up and you don't bring it back down. That's where Yeshua learns it from. He learns this teaching that you bring up something onto the mizbech, which is roy loy, which is okay for it, but it's actually psul now. You don't bring it back down from the words Ha'olah al Mokedah. Rabbi Gamliel says, Kol Haroy la Mizbeach. Anything that's right for the Mizbeach. Im Allah lo Yered. You bring it up, you don't bring it down. Even if it's a psul now, how do you know this? Shenemar Hi Ha'olah al Mokedah al HaMizbeach. Ma Olah Shehiro Oil Lagabi Mizbeach. Just as an Olah goes on the Mizbeach. Im Alata lo Tered. You bring it up, you don't bring it back down. Anything that's back, but now it's psul. Im Allah lo yered. You bring it up, you don't bring it back down. So the Gemara says, "Betarvayu my kamarabu." One of them both coming to include psulin. That if something is puzzle and you bring it up, it stays up there. So psulin. Mar matila mimikuda mimokada. Mar matila mimizbeach. So one Tana, right, is learning it from the word mokida, that if you bring up a psul onto the mizbeach, it has to stay there. You can't bring it back down. And the other one is learning it from mizbeach. So you have two teachings, the same teaching, and two rabbis learning it from two different sugim. This would have been the example. If Sanhedrin would have both given the reason, and they get two different sugim for the reason, we would say that one of them both counts, the other one don't, because it's impossible that the Torah will teach us the same lesson from two psukim. And this is an example of two rabbis learning the same lesson from two different sugim, that one vote would not be counted in Sanhedrin. The Gemara says, no, this is not true here. This is not the same lesson. No, there is actually an argument. Yeshua and Rabbi Gamliel are not teaching the same thing. Look at the end of the Mishnah. There's a difference when it comes to blood and it comes to wine libations, pouring the wine on the Mizbeach. Rabbi Gamliel Aimer lo yerdu. Rabbi Yeshua Amar yerdu. Why? Rabbi Yeshua says Mokeda. right? He learned it from Mokedah that he brings it up on the fire, then you don't bring it down. Now you don't bring the blood and the wine, you don't put it on the fire. That just goes on the Mizbeach. But Yeshua was learning that if you bring it up, you don't bring it back down, you roll it up from the fires. And since they don't go on the fires, if you didn't bring up a psul of blood and of wine, according to Yeshua, even if you brought it up in the Mizbeach, you would have to bring it down. But according to Gamliel, who learns from the pasuk Al HaMizbeach, that if you bring it up onto the Mizbeach, so then it's not talking about the fire. And dam, blood, nisachim, and wine libations are brought up onto the Mizbeach. So therefore, if you bring it up, you cannot bring it down. Now, what comes out is that it's not the same teaching from two different sugim, it's two different teachings. Because there's this nafkamina, there's this difference of Adam v'nisachim. So again, the Gemara wants to find an example of where two rabbis are learning the same lesson from two different sugim, that if the Sanhedrin would have said that, one of the votes would have been counted. So Eila Amar Rav Papa, Kedetanya. It was taught in the following brayta. Yosef Glili says, Mitoich Shneemar. Sin. It is stated as follows: Kol Hanugei b'mizbeach yikdash. Whatever touches the mizbeach becomes kaddish. Shemei ani ben roi ben she'enu roi. So it seems to me that anything that touches the mizbeach, whether it's roi loy, whether it's not roi loy, right? Certain animals don't go up on a mizbeach. Maybe if it touches the mizbeach, it becomes a kaddish because it comes sanctified that you have to bring it up on the mizbeach now. So, for example, what animal is not used on the mizbeach? Whatever kosher animal is not used on the mizbeach. Imagine it touches it. Time says no. It says kivasim, lambs. My kivasim roim. Just as kivasim usually is a acceptable carbon. Av kol roi. It must be that anything that touches it has to be something that's acceptable to go on it. That's how we learn it from Kiva. Kiva says, no, I don't learn it from the word kivasim. Rather than the word oila. Ma oila re'uya. Av kol re'uya. Roi. Anything that's roi, that could go up. And oila is an oila offering, right? So anything that can be considered like an oila, if it touches them as bad, it becomes kaddish and has to be brought up now. So they're both learning. V'tarvayu my kamimatu, my psule. They're disqualifying items that are never fit to be placed on the mizbeach. Now, where do they learn it from? Mar matin and mikavasim. One's learning from the fact that it says lambs, kavasim. Or mar matin lemi oilam. One learning from the word oila. So we see there's an example of two rabbis learning the same lesson from two different psukim. So this would have been the example that Sanhedrin would have voted, and they both would have said the same lesson from two different psukim. One of the votes wouldn't have been counted. This is the example. Gemara said not true. There is a difference over here. There is a difference when it comes to orlat ha'of. When it comes to the bird offering, right? Let's say a bird touches them as mizbeach. Okay, so what happens now? According to the opinion that said, we learn it from kivasim, from lambs, and that's like lamb-like touches them as bad, becomes kaddish. Only something that's lamb-like. This is not lamb. This is a bird. Therefore, if it touches them as bad, it doesn't become kaddish. But the one who learns it from oila, one who learns it from the burnt offering, even oil, even a bird can become a burnt offering. So there is a difference. They're not teaching the same thing because according to the first opinion, but it's kivasim. Only lambs that touch the mizbeach become kaddish. You have to be brought up, even if they weren't originally to be a carbon. But once it touches it, it becomes kaddish. It has to be brought up as a carbon. Whereas in the second opinion, it comes to the word oila. Oila includes even birds. So that's not the exact same lesson. So therefore, it's not an example of two rabbis learning the same teaching, same lesson from two different sukim. So Gemara now is going to look for another example. Eila Amar Rav Ashi. Rather Rashi. When it says Eila in the Gemara, Eila means the other things that we just brought. You can forget about them, and this is the right opinion. Eila Amar Rav Ashi, Kedetanya. It was taught in the following brayta. Dam yechashev leishahu dam shafach. It says in pasuk that if someone brings a carbon outside of the Maktam Hamikdash, the Beit Mishkan or the Beit Hamikdash, and it's time, if a person brought a carbon outside, it's considered as if he spilled the blood of that animal, and he gets karet, right? He gets karet for shechting a carbon outside the Makam HaMikdash. Now, it uses an interesting lashon, dam shafach. You spilled the blood. So the Chachamim learned from that word, lerabot et hazoyre, to include one who throws the blood outside of the temple. So even as an example, he shechted it inside the Mikdash. Then he took the blood and he sprinkled it outside the Mikdash. He also is chayev karet, from the words dam shafech. But Rabbi Akiva says, no, we don't learn it from dam shafech. Oy zavach. Or psukim later in Torah it says, or a sacrifice. Why is it saying a sacrifice again? We already know we're talking about sacrifices. So rather, l'rabois es hazoyrei. It is. So he says not from zavach, from the word oy zavach. The word oy is extra. So that's where he learns if you sprinkle it outside. Is l'rabois es hazoyrei. V'tervayu ma'kim rabbi. So what are they both coming to include? Zrika. That not only if you shech the animal outside the mikdash, that you're chayev karet, but even if you just sprinkle the blood outside, you are chayev karet. Mar mate midam yichoshe. One is learning it from the words dam yichoshe, and one mar mate la me oizavach. The fact that it says oizavach. You have two rabbis learning the same lesson from two different. Okay, this is the example. Amar says 1 second. Is it really so? There was a practical difference between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva. The day Rabbi Shmuel in a chayev elachas. The day Rabbi Akiva chayev shtayim. Okay, let's say a person did it b'shoigeg. He did it by accident. He shechted an animal, a carbon outside the mikdash, or he sprinkled the blood outside the mikdash, or he did both. So this is what the Gemara is saying. There is a difference because according to Rabbi Shmuel, you learn it from the pasuk that says you shechting it outside. And then it says you learn from there that also if you sprinkle outside. So you're both learning both from one pasuk. Therefore, if he was chayev both, meaning he did both, he shechted it outside the mikdash and then he sprinkled it outside the mikdash, he doesn't get two sets of karet, or if he did a shoygeg, he doesn't have to bring two carbon chatas, right? Because it's from one pasuk. So he only have to bring one chatat. Whereas Rabbi Akiva chayev shtayim, according to Rabbi Akiva, he would have to bring two chatat. Why? Because one pasuk talks about the punishment for shechting it, and one pasuk, it's not the same pasuk according to Rabbi Akiva. One pasuk talks about a sprinkling the blood. So therefore, you have to bring two chatats. So there is a difference to them. So this is not an example of two rabbis learning the same lesson from two different sugim, because the two different sugim is completely two different things. They're learning two different things, not the same lesson. Mara says, no, that's not true. It is the same lesson. Why? Because it was said about this Mishnah, Amar Bayam. No, even though Rabbi Akiva is learning the punishment from two from Sugim, he still would agree that you only bring one carbon chatat. Why? The Amar Kra, Sham Tale Oltecha, Visham Ta'aseh. Aravinu Rahmana Likulho Asiot. What happens? In order for giving someone a punishment, the Torah has to bring down two psukim for each punishment, right? You need one pasuk to teach us in Azhara, a warning about this Avera, and the second one to tell us the einish, the punishment that comes for this Avera. So the punishment, we have two different psukim that say to get karet, or to bring a carbon chatat, if you made the sin, because that's what Rabbi Akiva is learning, two different psukim. But at the same time, the warning, where does the warning come from? The warning comes from the pasuk Sham Ta'aleh Techa V'Sham Ta'aseh. There you should do it as I commanded you. It, like Gemara says, it mixes, combines all the asiyot, all the doings into one warning. If the azharot are in one warning, right, shechting it and sprinkling it, and all of it is in one warning, then you can only give one punishment for multiple violations, because the warning is in one pasuk. Therefore, even according to Rabbi Akiva, you would only be chayav one carbon chatat. So now we do have an example of two rabbis learning the same lesson from two different sugim, that if on this case, the Sanhedrin with Paskin and both Dayanim would give the same reason from two different sugim, we would not accept both votes as two separate votes. Rather, one of those votes would need to be discounted because someone is teaching a wrong teaching, because it cannot be that you can learn the same teaching from two different sugim, because Hashem just doesn't do that. You can learn multiple lessons from one pasuk, but two sugim cannot be teaching the same lesson. Okay, so we finished that sugya. We're going to move on to the next sugya. Dine mamanois danim bayoim. Okay, so the Mishnah said when it comes to monetary cases, you start it during the day, and you can conclude it at night. The Gemara is going to bring us Siman Mishpat Ma'aneh Mata. It is all teachings from Rabbi Acha Bar Papa. Question is, Menahani Mili. How do we know this? That it has to start a day and that it can end at any time. How do we know that it can end at night? So Amar Rabbi Acha Bar Papa. Everyone switches Rabbi Bar Papa to Rabbi Acha Bar Papa. The Amar Kwa. It says in Pasuk, B'shafatu et ha'am b'chol et. Right, Yitro is talking to Moshe Rabbeinu, and he says, you make judges, they'll be able to judge the people at any time. B'chol et, at any time. This includes nighttime. So that means that you can judge monetary cases, you can end the judgment at nighttime. Where it says, if it says b'chol et, and you can end it at nighttime, ihachi techilat din nami. Let the beginning of the judgment also start at night. Why are we not letting it start at night? It says b'chol et at any time. Rava, it's like Rava. The Rava Rami. Rava says, Ketiv, b'shafatu ta'am b'chol et, says you can judge at any time, including nighttime. But it also says, it also says on the day that his children inherit. And there it's talking about the trial that takes place during the day in order for the children to get their inheritance. Hakeitzad. Why does it say over here, b'yoim, on the day that they're doing the trial for the kids to get the inheritance? Yoim. So what? How do you understand? Two psukim. One says you started. One says you daytime, and one says at any time. So okay, tzad yoim l'tchilatin. Day is the beginning for the trial. Lila ligmardin, and the lila can be for the conclusion. That's halakha l'maisa. Is that you have to start a monetary case during the day, but it could conclude at night. According to the Ramah says that if you did start it at night, it still will hold. The ruling that they would give would still hold. Matnita and Deloitte Rabbi Meir. Now, our Gemara wants to mention that our Mishnah, which is Sakdin, which is what we hold, is not like Rabbi Meir. The Tanya was told on the Braita. Right? What does it mean when it says that the Kahanim would solve monetary disputes and they would look at tzarat? It says it in one pasuk, yeah, kol rib, any argument and any tzarat, the kohen will do on al PM according to their words. Why is the Torah comparing monetary disputes to tzarat? Because it's comparing monetary disputes to the tzarat. Why? Just like tzarat has to be seen during the day, on the day that he sees it, yom, right? So too, Revi'im has to be done by day. So according to Rabbi Meir, you cannot conclude the monetary dispute at night. It has to start in the day and has to end it during the day. And just like a nega cannot be seen by a blind kohen, as it's written, wherever the eyes of the kohen can see, the eyes, they have to have eyes. So too, you cannot have judges on a monetary case who are blind. And now compare tzara'at to monetary disputes. Just like when it comes to monetary disputes, you cannot go to your relative to be, the judge cannot be your relative. Same thing You should not go to a relative to look at your tzarat. And just like monetary disputes need three judges, so too looking at tzarat should be done with three judges. And it's a kavachaymer. Why is it a logical argument? When it comes to a person's money, which is less important than his guf and his body, you have to do it with three. Is it not for sure when it comes to the body that you need three judges to look at it, three kohanim to look at it? Tam and Leimer, Pasuk says no. That yes, the argument is there, but it's not the din. But Huva el Aaron Akoyin or el Echad Mibonov. It says bring it to Aaron Akoyin or one of his children. Halim Mata Shakil Koyin Echad Roya Es Hani Goim. So it comes out according to the mayor, you have to end the monetary dispute case during the day because it's comparing it to the Negoim. Also interesting, the halacha came out. We don't know the halacha yet, but Rameir said that a blind person cannot look at a neged tzaraat, and since he can't look at a neged tzaraat, he cannot look at a monetary dispute. More a comment. Ahu Samuel, the Hava Vishmavuted Rabbi Yochanan. There was a certain blind man. We're going to see that he was only blind in one eye. The Hava the Indina, who would judge monetary cases. And he would judge a monetary case. And Rabbi Yochanan didn't say anything to him. Hey, how could Rabbi Yochanan do this? How could he not say, you're a summa, you're blind, you can't be a judge? We know that halacha is like a mishnah that's anonymous. When Yehuda Nasi was redacting and editing the mishnayot, he said that anytime I'm bringing an anonymous opinion in the mishnah, the halacha is like the anonymous opinion. This way, it doesn't say it in one person's name, but rather it means it's a consensus that everyone agrees that's the halacha. So anytime you have a stam mishnah, that's the halacha utnan, and we had a mishnah in Nida that says, "Kol kasher ladun, kasher leha'id." Anyone who's kosher to be a judge is kosher to be a witness. V'yesha kasher leha'id, ain't kasher ladun. Whatever. Not everyone who's a kosher witness can be a kosher judge. This is coming to include a person who is blind in one eye cannot serve as a judge. So here, how could Rabbi Yochanan allow this blind man? He was blind in one eye. How could Rabbi Yochanan allow him to judge? Rabbi Yochanan found another Mishnah afterward. Their rules differently. Which Mishnah? Our Mishnah. What? Our Mishnah says, you conclude it at night. Now at night, no one can see well at night. So if you can end the case at night, then you don't need to be able to see in order to be a judge. The fact that our Mishnah allows to be gomer the din at night teaches us that a blind person in one eye could be a judge, because everyone is considered blind one eye at night, and we're talking without artificial light, of course. Our lights today is a different world, but we're talking about without artificial light. Everyone's considered someone blind at night. If you're allowed to be Gemara din at night, a blind person is allowed to be doing it at night. So now the Gemara says, "My umed hastama." Now the one in Nida, the Mishnah Nida seems to be saying a blind person cannot be a judge. And our Mishnah here seems to imply that a blind person could be a judge. Why is Rabbi Yochanan choosing one Mishnah over the other? One answer is our Mishnah follows the majority. Therefore, it's better to go with that one. That's the majority hold. The Mishnah Mida follows every mayor, which is a minority opinion. Or if you wish to say, because if you're going to look for halachas about dinim, about laws, you're going to look at this about how to run a court, how to run all these type of things. You're going to look at the Masechta that talks about judgment and cases and courts and laws. That's what you're going to do. So our parak, our Gemara is the one that's talking about these things. So why would I look anywhere else for the halachas? Why would I go to Masechtas Nida for an halacha? I'm going to look over here. Let's just look quickly at the halachas that come out out of this. So it says over here, halacha, one who is blind is disqualified from serving as a judge. The Rambam Shulchan Aruch brings this down. But one who is blind in one eye is fit. So, like the Mishnah, our Mishnah, and like Rabbi Yochanan allowed that blind man with one eye blind to be a judge, is because when it comes to monetary cases, a man blind in one eye would be allowed to be a judge. Now, for a priest, for a kohen to look at a person with sarat, a blind, even if he's blind in one eye, even if he has just difficulty to see some sort of eye ailment, he cannot be a dying a kohen to look at the tzarat. Because when it comes to tzarat, you really have to be able to see. When it comes to monetary cases, as long as you can see with one eye, okay, you can still be a judge. Okay, and one kohen can look to say something is tzarat. You don't need three. This was mentioned already. All right. So those are the halachas that came out of that sugya. Let's move on to another sugya. Okay, and the next topic in the Gemara. Okay. So we said that the rabbis allowed us to end the case at night, and Rav Meir didn't hold of that. Rav Meir compared it to tzarat, and just like tzarat has to be seen during the day, the whole case has to start and it has to end during the day. You cannot end it at night. So Rabbi Meir, now, what are you doing with the psukim that we learned that we could end it at night? We had a pasuk that said, "Hi, v'shafet with you can judge at any time." My darishbek. What is he learning from that pasuk? That b'chol you can judge at any time. Amarava le'ituye yom hameonan. Oh, he says, you know what I need to teach that? I need that pasuk to tell me that if it's a cloudy day, I can make a court case. Why? Remember, because he's comparing monetary cases to Tarat, and it's now we learned in the Mishnah, "Ein roinis and agam shachris of ein arbaim." We don't look at it at Tarat in the morning and in the evening. Not inside the house. Not on the day that is cloudy, because a dull spot would appear bright, meaning without proper natural light, you're not going to see the Tarat clearly. Because a bright spot appears dull. So therefore, Rabbi Meir says, you were comparing the monetary case to the negative tzara. You might think you cannot judge a case on a cloudy day. So come to the pasuk instead of even on a rainy, cloudy day. Okay, now Rabbi Meir, what do you do with the pasuk that says, we were learning that to tell us that's how you know you have to start during the day. But he says, you know to start during the day from tzarat. So what did he do with this pasuk? What did he do with this pasuk? This he needs. He needs us to teach the halacha Rav Bar Chanina toward the name of Nachman. Now the day that he inherits the sons inherit the father. During the day, the inheritance passes down. But the inheritance does not pass down at night. Amar Le Abai said, what? What does this mean? This means, does this mean that when the person dies during the day, then his children get his inheritance? And if he dies during the night, the inheritance doesn't go to the children? That doesn't make any sense at all. So what does he mean? Rav Bar Chanina, that it goes during the day and not during the night? Dilma din nachalois ka'amarta. We're talking about inheritance directives, meaning the guy is telling them what to do. The Tanya. The entire section deals with making judgments for inheritance. Three people are going to visit a sick person, and the sick person tells them instructions about how he wants his will to be made. Now, three people, they have an option of what they can do with that information. If they want, they can write it down on a star and sign as witnesses. Rotsu osin din. If they want, they can make themselves into judges and execute the judgment and make sure whatever he wants, it happens. Because they're three, they can act as judges. Shnaim, if there were only two, Koitvin din, they can only write it. They can't act as judges because there are only two. You need three to be judges. Vein oisin din. Omarab Chizda. Chizda said, and when they said this, that they can act as judges if there were three. This is only if what he told them happened during the day. Of a Balayla, if it happened at night, they only can write it, and they they write it, but they don't make judgment. Because you're Adim. The ain't aid, Nasadayin. And once you're a witness, you cannot become a judge. So Rabbi Chanina teaches that from this word, that if the father gives instructions, to three people, and he gives it them at night, then those three people cannot act as judges. Because at night, you can't start a court case, according to our opinion, the Mishnah, and according to our Rechana, because it says B'yayim has to be during the day they can act as judges, and if it happened at night, they would now have to only sign off as witnesses, but they cannot act as judges to make this happen. So Amalei, Rabbi Chanina says, Ein hachi kamina. This is what I meant, and this is what Rabbi Meir held to teach that you learn from the Yom Hanchilu et Bona. That if there are three people there and the father gives directive and it's during the day, they can act as judges. And if it happened during the night, they must sign on as witnesses, and they cannot act as judges because witnesses cannot turn into judges. Okay, we have one more Gemara for today. Right, we have one more Gemara for today. So let's take a look at this last piece. Dine nefashas, donin bayoim. When it comes to capital cases, you have to start it during the day, and it has to be concluded during the day, not concluded at night. How do we know this? How do we know that capital cases have to be concluded by day? Why can't it be compared to monetary cases concluded at night? How do we know it has to be concluded during the day? So Amar Asim Barchia, Amar Kra, Behoka Otam La Hashem Neged Hashamish. When the incident of the Baal Peor happened in the Midbar, it says over there, you have to hang up those people who made sin before Hashem against the sun. You have to hang them up against the sun. The sun is during the day, right? And we know that we do the execution immediately following the verdict. So therefore, if you're hanging them during the day, as the pasuk says, must be that the verdict is given during the day. That's the proof that it has to happen during the day. So Amar Rav Chizda, how do you know that the word in the pasuk vehoka means to hang? How do you know this? It's not a usual word for tliya, for hanging. So we learn it from another pasuk. Okay, so Shaul kills out the city of Nov. The Givonim live there. The Givonim were Gerim to Klal Yisrael. They're upset when David Melech becomes king. They're upset that Shaul did this. They demand 7 descendants of Shaul, 7 sons of Shaul, to be killed. David Melech asks Hashem. Hashem chooses which ones have to go, and basically the Givonim hang them up, and they use the lashon of the Hokah. How do we know they hung them up? And the pasuk continues that she was there, and she made sure that the birds wouldn't come onto them, and the beasts wouldn't go onto them. So it makes sense that they were hanging. So the word Hokah shows us that they were hung. So therefore, we know that the word in the Baal Peor means that they were hung, and it says it hung during the day. That's how you know the punishment has to happen. The verdict has to happen during the day. Now the pasuk, take a look in the Torah Shalom and base and bet. Hashem said to Moshe, "Kach es kol reshei ha'am." Take all the leaders of the generation of the nation, the hoka otam la Hashem, and hang them up against hang them up to Hashem. Means they hang them, kill them. Neged Hashamish, against the sun. Hashem Yisrael. Hashem's anger will go away from Israel. So it's the pasuk seems to be implying that Moshe is supposed to take the Roshei Ha'am, the heads of the nation, and hang them. That's the Gemara's question. If the nation sin, Rashi ha'am ma'achetu. What did the heads of the nation do? Why are we pasuk saying to hang the heads of the nation? No, you're supposed to do Moshe, make many batei din, make many beit dins. So the way the Yad Moshe is supposed to read the pasuk is, take all the heads of the nation. Why? Why you need to take them? In order for them to be able to hang those of the punishment. Meaning, take them and make them into different batei din, houses of judgment. And this way you can punish more people. My tama, what's the reason why they want to get more batei din in order? Why split up the heads of the nation? Why want more batei din, more houses of judgment? My tama, ain't done in you might think because the halach is you're not allowed to try two capital cases on one day. One court can only try one. But this is not true in every case. This is only talking about two different cases, right? Because it's a lot of mind and thought and reasoning has to be put into place when you're dealing with capital cases. And two different type of cases are going to require a lot of thought. But if it's only the same case over and over again, did they do it with or did they not? It's the same reasoning for every case. So therefore, you could judge more than one day. So why did you need more batei din? You do it all in one. Granted, in order to take the charon af away from Yisrael, the way the Yad Ramon others learn is that as long as the Rishaim are out there, Hashem's anger is still flaring. Therefore, if you have more batei dinim, if you have more houses of judgment, you're able to judge the Rishaim faster, and if need be, kill them faster. This way, the charon af, anger of Hashem, would subside because Klal Yisrael are judging and ridding themselves of the Rishaim faster. As Hashem, this is where we get up to for today. And then we'll continue next week.